Hey everyone, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, hanging out with, at GenCon, a special guest, Dan Dillon, and today we're going to talk about streaming Dungeons & Dragons. Jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy. Alright, so Dan, do you want to introduce yourself and say where people can find you?
Yeah, I can do that. Hi everybody, my name's Dan Dillon. I'm a freelance game designer working mostly on 5th edition D&D these days. You can find me on Twitter at Dan_Dillon_1. And I'm also on Facebook. I'm a moderator on the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Facebook group, the one with over 125,000 members. So there's tons of people there talking D&D all the time. Come and join us. We'd love to have you.
So as you said, you're in the publishing. Your name's all over the place at this point in time. You're in Kobold. You're Jetpack 7. There's stuff with WotC going on.
Yep.
So today we're going to talk about streaming games online, and rumor says that you've run your first game online.
I have. Yeah. It's been interesting. So. I started running a D&D 5th edition game set in Midgard's campaign setting. So it's called The World Tree Burns, and it's on the Encounter Roleplay Twitch network, and you can find the back episodes there and on YouTube.
We'll try and see if we can remember to put the links down below, but if not, you can just search for The World Tree Burns.
Yep, that'll get you there. Yep, if you search on YouTube, there's a playlist with all the back episodes, and they go up probably the day after we record. So what is your experience so far? I mean, obviously, if you're writing material, you've been playing a long time. Yeah.
What do you feel? The good, the bad, the ugly of this first game.
So overall, my impression is really great. I'm having a great time doing it, and a lot of that owes to Will at Encounter Roleplay. He really knows his business, and he's got great people working for him. So they have a great setup. It's already established, and he pulled together a great cast to play in this game. And that is really, I think, the key to running a great game is having great people to play with.
That's always an element that looks at I myself, I've been gaming for over 25 years, and I've played with serious veteran players that do all the voices and get fully immersed in the character, and other players are like, look, I'm just here to roll funny shaped dice and not be a part of the real world for a few hours.
Sure.
So,
and both styles are valid, and it depends on what you're there for and what the rest of the group is there for. But these guys on World Tree Burns, they come to play. So nice. So we're having a great time. We got people doing voices. We've got people doing no voices. One of our rangers is near mute. So it's been interesting. So it's funny, once the cameras get rolling and we get into it, it really doesn't feel that much different than running a game around a table. I almost stopped seeing the interface, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
I stopped seeing the screen.
I totally understand that, and I've done a fair amount of streaming games, both as DM, and as player. If you guys are familiar with the channel, you certainly can see all of the Nerdarchy live play games that I'm a part of. So there's lots of different things that are going on. So if you would say, what is the best element of it, what would you go with?
The best element of it so far is actually probably one of the most challenging. It's the interaction that I have with people who are watching the game while we play.
Okay.
So the viewers are actually interacting in chat, talking to players, asking questions, and we'll get people in there. In fact, Ben McFarland, big writer at Kobold Press, he ends up in the chat every now and then, and he'll explain setting lore to people, and he'll even call it out as it's happening. Like he'll say, "Oh, that's how you do 10 years under the mountain," and then that's my next line is, "And so you spend 10 years a prisoner under the mountain." And so he's explaining all of this stuff to people as it's playing out on the screen. So that's been really cool.
To me, I look at reach, as part of that element. And there's lots of ways that I get into that. Number one, you get to share what you're doing with a lot of people, anyone that wants to watch a game, and it's instructive and it's informative. I watch other people play online, and I get to see, oh, I wouldn't have thought about doing that, or oh, I certainly would not play it that way, and it instructs, it informs, and I know that I can become a better game master because I'm watching other people play, and I get those tips on a regular basis. But at the same time, I as a a YouTuber, a streamer, what have you, I'm able to set up games with people that are across the country, across the world, and I've literally had a game where it's like, hey, I just woke up. It's like first thing in the morning. Other people are like, it's the middle of the night or it's the middle of the day, and all of us are in one game spread out across the world, and I'm like, I can't have this at my local table, at my the game in my basement. Like, I can't have that. I can't have people fly in on a regular basis. So you literally have that reach, and it's like, it's not possible without streaming.
Right, absolutely. And that just opens up so much. Like, you have, the group that played together in high school or college, and then everybody scattered to the four winds. Those old groups are getting back together to play now, thanks to things like Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, just playing over Google Hangouts without any virtual tabletop.
Right.
Just whatever. It's great. I'm actually looking at getting some of my old buddies from high school that I used to game with. Trying to drag them back into it through, because, one's in Chicago, the other's in New York,
And, with that, you can definitely go out there and say, all right, bring it in. Let's do a weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, whatever is going to work for everybody. All you have to do is be able to get in front of that screen and be like, all right, we're going to roll dice. We're going to do this. And whether you click record, whether you click go live, or whether you just have fun, it's a way that you can connect and you can continue that game regardless of where you're at.
Right. And then the other part of the reach is just the people who are watching, not even the people you're connecting to play with. I've had people, find me on social media or even here at GenCon who have come up and said, oh, I know who you are. I watched you play a game. And it's still a little jarring, It's like, oh, well, okay, cool.
I've been running my game that we've been doing since the beginning of 5th edition, and we record it, we post it up online.
Right.
Yeah, I know we're behind, but I'll have conversations with some of the fans, and I'll cite something, and like, oh yeah, I know that character, and they cite the name before I can get there, and I'm like, wow, like they know my material as much as I do, and there's it makes my my heart throb to know that it's like people are attached to what's going on. But then, as you were saying, there's an interactivity level to it as well. We ran a game on the channel with Marvel Phase Rip that the viewers had the ability live to influence the events of the game.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And they were able to make changes, and it was amusing to see that kind of flux. And when you get that kind of level, it means that it's more than just, oh, I'm sitting there watching a TV show or watching somebody play a game. I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's
probably the part that I find most challenging, but not at all in a bad way. Is the way Encounter Art Roleplay runs their streams is there is that interactive level. Like, the viewers can donate bits to cause different things to happen. They can donate natural 20s that the players can spend to automate that, or that I can spend. We've used those a few times. Or ones that I can just give out as I want, or they can give ones to a specific player that I can invoke whenever I want.
Wow.
They can spend to roll a d10 and heal one of the characters, or to even influence something like this character is going to find a magic item, and it will, and depending on how much how many bits they want to spend, they can even get more elaborate. Like, this person's going to find a magic weapon, and it might do something like this. And I'm not beholden to take exactly the letter of whatever they say, but I mean,
you take inspiration.
I'm definitely if someone is donating to the channel, which is going to a great cause to bring a lot of great shows to people, and they say, hey, this should happen in the game. Something basically that is going to happen in the game. I've had random monsters pop up and attack people at the end of a tough battle when they were already close to dead. I've had a second random monster pop up after they finally killed the first random monster. It's been interesting.
Well, that goes to that. The viewership then becomes part of that, and it's encouraging, because that really makes people want to be there when it's happening. And just like people like, well, I have to watch this television show, they'll be like, well, all right, this is on, I need to go watch it now, because I can't get the same interactivity
when it's not live. Exactly. And that's a huge challenge for me as a dungeon master because, you know, when you're a DM, you can set up a lot of things. These are the encounters that are going to play out. These are the treasure that they're going to find. And then someone just says, oh yeah, and by the way, there's going to be a sword that does a bunch of radiant damage. Okay, now I have to figure out where that fits in. Or one thing that's fun that Encounter RP does are these wild surges. They have a 10,000 item, like a D10,000 table of just random crap that can happen. Kind of like the wild magic table in the Sorcerer. And so people can spend bits to force a player to make a roll on the wild surge table and something happens. And so sometimes it's really silly, but I love to, as much as I can, take those things when they happen and then try to integrate it some way into the story. I love things like that. I mean, it's a lot harder when we're talking about a campaign versus a one-shot, but I have run games where anytime somebody rolled a 20 or a 1, I was rolling on that wild surge table and having things go on. Essentially, our world is infused with a lot of chaos, and there was a gnome who screwed some stuff up. So therefore, I was going to that over and over again. So I'm like, guys, at the very beginning of the game, you need to let me know when this happens. And I was dropping the dice. And these things were going off like crazy. Oh, no. And it was just so much fun. And I love that table for it. You know, nothing drastic happened. There weren't fireballs every other round or anything. But, you know, people are turning sheep, potted plants, and aging, and their hair turning blue. And it's like, you know what? This is just an amazing game. Everybody loved it, and by the end, they're like, I don't want this to be over. I want this to keep going. So, you know, the next thing I want to ask is like, all right, not everything is going to be good. What do you feel is the worst part about streaming online? So I said earlier on, once I got going, that I stopped seeing the interface. That's true to a point. There is something different between talking to a bunch of face images on a screen and then having a bunch of your people around the table with you. It's easier. You can make actual eye contact with people when they're in person, and you just have to sort of fake it and cheat it when you're looking at cameras and looking at images when people are just on your monitor. Eye-to-eye contact is not going to be the same because, like, all right, I can look directly at the camera here, but I don't know where you're facing, and if I've got 4 different boxes here, it's like, well, I can look at that box, but then it doesn't look like I'm looking at the camera. So, like, it gets a little weird of like, okay, well, I'm talking to you, but if I'm looking directly at the camera, everybody's going to see that, well, I'm looking directly at you. So who are you pointing to for real? Exactly. So that can be a bit tricky. So there's adjustment. So you have to learn to do things like make sure you say the specific character's name that you're going to talk to or narrate to more often, and make sure you're calling out a little more of the things that you take for granted just in body language when you're in the same room around the same table. Well, body language is another thing. You know, if we're talking about streaming, and you're just seeing, you know, this head box, or, you know, maybe, you know, the bust, you know, up to the, you know, up to the shoulders, like, you're not getting, well, what's their posture? Exactly. What are their hands doing? Like, all right, I can't tell whether you're sitting there fidgeting and you're acting nervous and you're role playing it, you know, whether you're tapping your foot or whether you're, you know, doing some other tell to know what's going on. And at a table, you can see what's going on. You can know, like, all right, is that character antsy and they're nervous about what's going on? You know, are they sitting there squirming in their chair because they're, you know, really, like, out of game nervous about what's there? You don't have the ability to set them at ease. Whereas, like, you know, when you're at the table, like, you get to see all of these things. And you take all that for granted until it's not there anymore. And there's some adjustment that you have to go through to compensate for that. I tend to talk with my hands a lot and narrate with my hands when I'm showing explosions and lightning and all, and claws and all that. And I have to because I have to watch myself in my own little cam feed to make sure that my hands are up in frame so they can see the claws that I'm making. Otherwise, this means nothing. The number of times that I've been recording and I've done something outside of the camera view, and I'm like, well, that was kind of pointless. And you know, I might not notice until the end, and it's like, well, I pointed to the thing over there, but my hand, like, totally went out of frame before there was any real, like, notifications. Like, well, all right, oh well, move on. Now,
every player caliber is going to be different, and I've gamed with you know, people who like to fudge rolls, and to me, I don't really care. It's a game, and I've met people who are like, look, I'm going to roll out in the open. I want you to see the dice. And I'm going to go with whatever they say because the dice dictate the fun. The dice dictate the actions. You know, have you experienced any issues with streaming and, you know, the dice rolls? I know, like, if you get into some of the virtual tabletops, you know, those things can have dice rollers attached to it.
Yep.
But if you're not using those, then it's like, okay, well, I'm rolling the dice over here, and you just have to go with the you know, trust system.
Yeah, if you're just rolling physical dice and not everybody's there to see it, I mean, you just have to assume that everybody's there to play and have fun. And when it comes to, like, if someone's fudging or cheating a roll, I usually take the idea of if they care enough to cheat about this result, that means they're really invested in the game and they care about what's happening. And so I feel like I'm doing my job as a DM.
Okay.
If they care enough to worry about that. I'm not really that worried about it, honestly. Now, on World Tree Burns, we use Fantasy Grounds for dice rolling and occasional map sharing. We don't do full token or anything, at least not at this point. We've gone just mostly narrative. And then we use it for just the little extra visual stuff and specifically for the dice rolls. So we do the electronic dice roll for the most part, so that's just basically not even an issue for us.
Right.
But with Fantasy Grounds interface, there's kind of like a chat box, right? And you have to drag the dice and roll them in the chat box, and that's what broadcasts it to everyone.
Right.
You can roll them anywhere on your Fantasy Grounds window, but they only broadcast if they're in the chat box. And so if somebody rolls a die and they're like, "Oh no, I rolled a 20, but it wasn't in the box," I'll take it. Like, I believe them. You know, if I accidentally roll something out of the box and it was good or bad, I'll just roll with it. You know, I'm not gonna demand that I see every roll result. No, that's okay.
In the Saber Dice Numenera series that I was a part of with Mike from Unmade Gaming, you know, we used Roll20. It was my first real exposure to virtual tabletops. And, you know, Numenera is a bit of a complicated system with, like, okay, you know, are you using, you know, your pools? Are you, you know, using any of this? So, like, you have to click through to get to the actual dice roll. But again, because you do it, it winds up going out to broadcast, and therefore everybody gets to see it. And that does mean, okay, everybody gets to see when you drop those ones, which in Numenera means he gets to insert something bad.
Right. Yeah, there's no picking the die up real quick so nobody sees the fumble.
So is there anything else that you want to, you know, get into as far as you know, streaming that we haven't talked about?
I don't know. I think those are mostly the high points. I'm only 9 sessions in on my first streaming campaign, so I'm sure I'll have more to talk about after 9 more. But no, it's been a blast. I'm really grateful to both Encounter Roleplay and for Cobalt Press for making that happen, because that's
I'm a big fan of streaming. You know, to me, I go back to the point of being able to, you know, be able to be viewed by lots of people and be able to game with lots of people. So I'm totally for it. I wouldn't solely do that because, again, the intimate nature of gaming with the people, being able to shake hands, you know, commiserate or celebrate over pizza or whatever, you know, gaming food you're gonna have at the table. Like, I still want to do that, but, you know, because it's available, I'm totally gonna keep streaming.
Oh yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want to, you know, share or, you know, talk about before we head out?
Sure. Well, I mean, we're here at GenCon, and we've got this sweet book here. I could point this out. The Masters and Minions from Jetpack 7. That's
this is the special cover.
This is
the regular cover that you're going to get if you're looking to get it now.
This is the limited edition cover. I think you can get them at the booth. They only have about 200 of them, so they're pretty tough to get. But this is the standard edition, and you know, it's gorgeous. So you're not missing out if this is what you get. I mean, look at that. And that is actual art from inside the book. That's one of the masters, and
the artwork in this is really phenomenal. I like that they've got nice little pairings for you to use, and it's a solid get. I know we supported it on Kickstarter.
Nice. So for anyone at home that doesn't know, Masters and Minions is a book that is exactly what it says. It's paired masters and their henchmen, and they range in challenge rating from 1 to 20 something. And
I think there's a 30 in there.
Is there a 30? There might be a 30. I think the Colossus might be a 30.
But the idea is it's supposed to be things that you can use from level 1 all the way through level 20, so that you can get out there and just be like, boom, I'm going to run adventure adventures, and you can use
Right.
these things right out of the book.
These are ready-made villains, maybe not even villains, could be allies of a dubious nature, or even just someone that you encounter on the way, and we'll see what happens depending on how you interact with them.
You could literally take the book and say, okay, well, I want this to be the big bad of the campaign,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and then build down with these lieutenants
Yes.
right out of here, and your whole adventure arc is planned
Yep.
with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite things is they have really rich lore sections as well, which we've come to expect from 5th edition monster supplements. And so there are just story hooks on story hooks built into each one of these guys. I mean, you could build a campaign arc around, just pick one at random, and there you go.
All right, Dan. Well, thank you for hanging out with us here at GenCon.
It's my pleasure.
If you got any thoughts about streaming online, or whether you've picked up your copy of Masters and Minions yet, you can share that with us down in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay nerdy.